Hey guys, it's Barbara and welcome back to my channel. Let's make some high-end home decor using Dollar Tree items. Starting off with our first project, this really cute scarecrow sign. Using two of Dollar Tree's square signs, they measure 10 and 7/8 by 10 and 7/8. Go ahead and remove the hanger as well as those staples from the back. And for once, these signs were very easy to remove the paper off of the front. I was lucky enough that all I had to do was just peel it and the majority of it came off. Once I have all of that off, I'm going to flip these over and actually put the holes both in the center. I'm making a marking about 6 3/8 of an inch down and drawing a line, and then taking my utility knife and scoring it just a few times on the front. Then you can pop that, make a crease on the back, and then cut the remainder off of the back. Now I'm going to use that larger piece, and we're not going to use the smaller piece in this project. I sanded down all those edges as well as the edges on the big sign just because they have a little rough texture to them on the outside, I guess where they glued the paper down. Then I'm going to use my handy little handheld vacuum, which I have this linked in my Amazon store in the description box if you're interested. This just saves so much time. I measured these out in thirds, and I'm using just a regular 5-gallon paint stir stick as a straight edge to take my oil-based Sharpie and go over the pencil marks that I've already made. Now I am going to use this paint stick, and it's actually cut down to 16 1/8 of an inch, but I'm going to set that and the smaller sign to the side just for now. I'm using Apple Barrel's acrylic paint in the color khaki, and I'm only going to give this one coat of paint over this entire sign. I wanted it to have a very opaque type look, so once that dries, I am going to go back over it with some more of that khaki paint and try to give it a wood grain look. So I'm just going to create some knots and just a little bit of texture throughout this piece, just adding some lines, trying to shape it up to look like the grain in wood that you would see. And it's going to be really pretty once that dries and kind of blends in a little bit. And you don't have to be perfect. Just go in and add a few lines just to, because it's going to fade in just a little bit. And I used my hair dryer to speed that up, speed that drying process up. And then if you need to add more lines or you want to add a little bit more texture to it, you can go back in and add that just until you achieve the look that you're going for, which in this case is to make it look like it has wood grain. So once I was satisfied with how that was looking and it was dry, I go back over those lines to darken them up a little bit with the oil-based Sharpie. And then I took a pencil and I'm going to draw the scarecrow's face. So I just like to go in and freehand it and make sure that everything is in place where I want it to be with my pencil. That way if I make any mistakes, I can erase them. And now once I have the face designed the way I want it to look, I'm going to go in and add some paint. So for the color of his eyes, I am using Calypso Sky, which is just an acrylic paint, and then also some white chalk paint, or you can use white acrylic paint. And make sure that you put those little dots in the eyes because it really adds just a little extra pop at the end when you color everything in. For the nose and the cheeks, I am using the color Pumpkin Orange, and this is an acrylic paint as well. And again, I'm going to use my hairdryer to speed it up because some of the blue and the white I did have to go over with a second coat. I took a very fine tip Sharpie and went in the outline between the blue and the white because my oil-based Sharpie is a little thicker and I didn't want to bleed into those two colors. And then went over all of my pencil marks with my oil-based Sharpie just to really bring out the design. And then once you color in the eyes, it just really comes to life. I added a couple of little stitches around the nose and the mouth, and this is where you can just get really creative and make whatever kind of face that you want to put on there. Or if you're not that well, you can't draw that well free-handed, I'm sure there are plenty of images that you could print out and trace. I gave it a few little eyelashes, and now I'm going to just set that to the side and let everything dry completely. Taking the smaller piece of that Dollar Tree sign and the paint stick, I'm going to give that one coat only of the color Burnt Umber, and it gave it a nice little grainy texture look. And I also made sure that I painted the two outside ends because they're going to stick out further than our sign. Again, I went back over my lines with the oil-based Sharpie to bring that color out, and now it is time to glue everything together. Once I have my two signs lined up and make sure that my lines are in the same direction, they're lined up, I use some hot glue to glue the paint stick down, sort of at an angle, and then to reinforce it on the back, I'm just taking some regular craft sticks and hot gluing those down to make sure those two signs stay together really well. I took a luau skirt because I ran out of raffia, but I did have this luau skirt from Dollar Tree, and I just cut a length of it off. I'm going to tie the center of it with some jute rope really tight, then cut that excess jute rope off, and then I'm going to trim it down to the length that I want it to be so that I'll have a nice little embellishment for the hat. You could also use this and glue it under the paint stick to give it some hair, but I liked the way it looked at the top on the hat. I'm also using some of Dollar Tree's sunflowers, and I cut the bottom off flush so that I'll be able to hot glue these down. And once I have those in place, this is the cutest Scarecrow sign. This would look just so gorgeous with your fall decor. Now, if you do decide to put this under a covered porch outside, I do recommend you put a sealant on it to protect that paint and to protect your piece. Let me know what you think of project number 1. Project number 2, I was so excited to find these paint your own or create your own pumpkins from Dollar Tree. They only had 4. They had 2 different kinds, which I picked up 2 of those, but they only had 4 in my store, and this was a little bit early on in the season, so they must go pretty quickly. Now, I wanted one of them to be white, and you may be thinking, well, it's already white. Why are you painting it? It did have a few smudge marks on it that would not wipe off, so I went ahead and gave it a coat of my white chalk paint, everything except for the leaves and the stem because I'm going to paint that a different color. The other shaped pumpkin, I gave this 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint in the color Celery, and this is a gorgeous, gorgeous green, and it is so beautiful for fall. Now, once everything dries, I am going to take that same khaki paint that I used in project number 1 and paint the stem as well as all of those raised leaves on the front just to bring those leaves out. Now, it's gorgeous the way it is, but I'm going to add a little something extra to those leaves and the stem by taking some antique wax and going around the indentions of the stem as well as the veins on the leaves. I just really wanted to bring those designs out. Now, I'm only going to put 1 coat, and I do dab some of it off with a paper towel to kind of blend it in so it doesn't stand out too much. And I'll do the exact same thing for the green one. Then I went down in between each of the ribs of the pumpkin with the same antique wax and really brought out that design. I love how these turned out, and I'm also going to do that for the green one. And once I have all of that done and it's dried, I'm going to create a couple of bows. Now, for the green one, I wanted something very simple, just a simple jute rope bow right there at the top on the stem. And for the other pumpkin, I am going to use some of this orange burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut it down in thin strips, as well as this gorgeous decorative ribbon from Dollar Tree that has these cute owls on it. I'm going to cut a couple of those in the same length and dovetail the ends of the owl ribbon. And then I'm just going to crisscross these together on top of each other with the different designs. And I'm squeezing it together in the center as I do this. And once I have all 4 pieces together, I could take a piece of jute rope and place that in the center and wrap that around and double knot it in the back. Now, my bow was a little bit too long for this particular pumpkin, so I did end up trimming the tails down a little bit. So I had to re-dovetail the ends of the green ribbon, and then I can hot glue that right to the stem. And I also cut off that excess jute rope, and now you have some really beautiful and elegant ceramic pumpkins that are just gorgeous. Let me know what you think of project number 2. Now, if you're new to my channel and you are enjoying today's video, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and the notification bell, and also visit me on my other social media accounts. I have all those links in my description box below. Let's get started on project number 3, which is this really cute sign with the crate at the bottom. We're going to start off with 2 of Dollar Tree's wood crates and attach them end to end using some Gorilla Wood glue and hot glue. And then make sure that your lines are pretty straight across because these boxes are not made exactly the same. I took some sandpaper and went over some of those roughed edges. And I'm going to give this 1 coat of Waverly White chalk paint around all the entire sides and the bottom and just the top rim. I'm going to give this a distressed look using my favorite gray chalk paint, which I have linked in my Amazon store if you are interested. I took a paintbrush and went down in the grooves on the front of the crate, and then I am dry brushing and heavily distressing around the entire part of this crate, including the top rim. Now I'm going to use another one of those square 10 by 7/8 of an inch sign from Dollar Tree. Remove the hanger and the staples and the paper from the front. And this gorgeous calendar sign from Dollar Tree. So if you flip that top part over, the top part on the back side has this beautiful Happy Harvest. So it is pretty thick, so you don't have to be too concerned about seeing the back side through. I cut the end off to make sure it was as straight as possible, and I'm going to apply this to the sign using some Mod Podge. So I like to emphasize on those outside edges and make sure I get a nice even coat all over the top part of the sign, and then press that down nice and firmly to try to remove the air bubbles. Now the little hole at the top of the sign, I blended that in with some white chalk paint and some of that gray chalk paint. Once the Mod Podge dried, I took my sandpaper and went around the entire outside edge to get any of the excess paper off. Using this wood laser cutout from Hobby Lobby. Now these are very thick and you can get them for about $1.50 a piece, but they are like quadruple the thickness of the ones that you can find at Dollar Tree if you can find them. I took antique wax and went over that entire piece and then wiped some of it off with a paper towel, and I'm attaching that to the front of our crate using some hot glue. Now I'm going to turn it to the side and we're going to attach these 2 scrap pieces. These are the 5-gallon paint stir sticks, and these are just some scraps that I had, and I'm going to hot glue these to the back of the 2 crates, leaving enough at the top so this can serve as a support when we attach our sign to the front. So it doesn't matter that they're not the exact same length. I'm going to hot glue the sign right to the front of that. It's going to rest on the top of the crates and to the back of these paint sticks. And this is so cute. Now we can fill it with all our cute little fall goodies. And I'm going to take some Spanish moss from Dollar Tree and fill in those 2 crates, as well as kind of pull it over the centerpiece a little bit so it kind of blends that in, and push it up a little bit in the back. And then I'm using these pumpkin clips from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove those from the clips, and I end up using 4, so I had to use 1 from another pack. And then the pumpkins off of this pumpkin filler pick from Dollar Tree, and just place those in the 2 crates. And then for that dead space in between, I am using this beautiful scented pine cone, and it has these cute acorns in it. This came from Dollar Tree and it smells so good. It smells like cinnamon. I'm just going to fill in all those empty spaces and create a bow for the top using 2 decorative ribbons from Dollar Tree, and then the brown burlap, which I'm going to cut down into strips and make the same type of bow that I did for the ceramic pumpkin previously in project number 2. So I'm going to dovetail the ends of each of the decorative ribbon and then just crisscross them in patterns on top of each other. and get them all nice and layered out. And then I will attach those together using a piece of jute rope just by wrapping it around the center and double knotting that in the back. And then I'll take some more jute rope and create a messy bow just by wrapping that around a few of my fingers several times and then tying that in the center to create our messy bow. And then I can use the jute that I already have there to attach it to the center of our ribbon bow by wrapping it around and double knotting it on the back, and then cut all my excess jute off. And then I'm going to hot glue that to the top corner of this sign. And I just love how this project turned out. I love the green in that truck and those beautiful pops of orange and white. And it looks so pretty with our previous project, the pumpkins. Now let's get started on project number 4, making this gorgeous wreath. I wanted to make a beautiful wreath for my front door, and it's going to be all ribbon. I'm using some green ribbon from Dollar Tree, some burlap ribbon from, I believe this came from Dollar General, some orange ribbon from Hobby Lobby, but I do know that Dollar Tree does have some of this colored orange if you can find it, and 3 different kinds of decorative ribbon from Dollar Tree. They are all wired, and I'll have all the widths and measurements down in my description box below. I took some chenille stems and cut those in half. Now, I originally started off by creating my bundles by cutting those in 6-inch lengths and then dovetailing the ends of each one of them. Now I do change mine up to 7 or like 6 7/8 of an inch later on, and I'll show you why I decided to do that. I am just gathering the center of each of the ribbon and then placing them on top of the previous ribbon in a crisscross motion. Take the chenille stem and wrap it around the center, and then tie that really tightly, twist it around really tightly in the back. Make sure you get it good and tight so that it stays gathered right there in the center. And then I'm going to pull all my ribbon up to the top a little bit, so it kind of pulls the chenille stem down and you don't see it, and then I fluff my ribbon out. I'm going to be attaching these bundles to a 14-inch wire wreath form from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to attach them to the 2 center rings of the wreath. So I'm going to place the first one on the second from the outside edge and twist it around really tightly around the back side. And then my next bundle, I'll use a different decorative ribbon. So I'm going to alternate between the decorative ribbons, but I'm going to continue to use the burlap, the orange, and the green in every one of my bundles. I'm going to put the second one right there on the second from the inside and twist that really tightly. And then I realized it was a lot of separate cutting, so I decided to change the length just a little bit after I made those first 2 bundles. So I do end up taking one of the bundles off and moving it so it blends in to the other side. But I found that I could just wrap it around my cutting mat there, which was about 6 7/8 of an inch. So it's about 7/8 of an inch longer than my original 2 bundles. That way I could wrap it around, slide it off my mat, and cut those 2 ends off. And now I have the same length, and I don't have to sit there and cut them individually. And I did that with all my ribbon and dovetailed all of the ends on it. So as I'm creating these bundles, again, what you're going to do is it's going to take 8 bundles per section. There's 6 sections in this wreath form. So it's going to take 48 bundles. And as I do that, when I put 2 on, I attach those 2 together to tighten it up. So once I get everything filled in, I make sure all of my chenille stems are nice and tight on the back and push those down flat, and then flip it over and fluff all my ribbon out. And it is simply gorgeous. I love how this wreath turned out. You guys, let me know what you think. I am in love with the colors in this. And I am so excited to hang it on my front door for the fall season. You guys, if you have a favorite, please let me know in the comments down below which one is your favorite. I always love to know. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.